Cody Willard's anchor on Fox Business Network, and we're privileged to have him with us today. Cody, thanks for being with us today.
Well, thank you so much. I'm privileged, absolutely, to be on.
Thank you very much. We're still trying to absorb the news here, and everybody, I suppose, is trying to gauge the significance of it with regard to the new deficit numbers and the CBO analysis. What do you make of it? What's the significance of it? And what does it mean to our overall fiscal picture?
Well, the bad news is that, whether it's 9.1 trillion here or 9.2 trillion there, or if we're going to count apples instead of oranges at 6.4 trillion, we're still talking about trillions upon trillions of dollars that we are spending, that we're not earning, that we're not generating, and we're basically borrowing those trillions against our children's and our children's earnings. And that,
I saw the other day where someone said that in 5 years we're going to be paying more interest on our debt than we spend for national defense.
I have not seen that stat, but I would totally believe it, just because, the numbers are. You start doing these numbers every year in and year out, and we have to pay interest on it. Anytime you're borrowing money, you have to pay interest. The great news is that people are still lending to us at these incredibly low interest rates relative to any period in the history of the economy. But, how long that will last is anybody's question. And if rates go to, 10%, like I frankly expect they will over the next 2 to 3 years, it's going to be expensive.
So just for the average listener, that's the consequence you think that they could feel first from all of this, and that is a substantial increase in interest rates.
And inflation, too. People downplay inflation all the time and say, well, the latest reports were, 1%, and that's not a big deal, et cetera. But I like to get a little more of a historical perspective on it and just look at what's happened in the last 10 years and the eroding purchasing power of your hard-earned savings and of your dollar for dollar. And, I look at people. I moved to New York in 1996 and lived on 101st in Amsterdam in a pretty rough neighborhood. And I went back there and visited some of the families I knew back then just a month ago. And, they're making about the same amount of money they were in 1996, and their rent has gone from $800 a month to $1,300 a month. A gallon of milk might be down month over month, but it's doubled in price in the last 10 years.
Well, too, isn't it true that we react too slowly, that the Fed reacts too slowly historically in trying to combat inflation? When it's seen on the horizon, they don't want to take the medicine before they have to, and they let it get out of hand before they can begin to control it.
Well, and I think you're absolutely right about that. You look at the history of how they fought inflation; they are usually late to the curve, and sort of more to the point, even with this right now, is that we used to think that 0% interest rates, when the Fed would cut interest rates to 0%, where they're allowing banks to borrow money, taxpayer largesse, and then go out and lend it at 5, 6, or even 24% in the case of credit cards. We used to think that 0% interest rates were going to cause bad inflation. What we have right now is trillions of dollars of printed money / borrowed money that we sent to the shareholders of banks and car companies and credit card companies and GE, and we have interest rates indeed at the unbelievably 0%, and people are sitting here applauding Ben Bernanke for having saved things. I think this is a disaster. And employment's at 10% in the meantime.
Man, you're absolutely singing my tune. It's what we've been talking about for a long, long time. Because what you're saying it just exactly right. We're going to have higher interest rates. They're going to be on us. We're going to have also inflation at the same time. We're going to wait too late. The president has just reappointed Ben Bernanke. Ben Bernanke is doing what the president wants him to do now in terms of loosening the purse strings, in terms of printing the money. And I think that we can look forward to a continuation of that policy. And as they continue to do that, it's just going to make the inflation problem worse down the road, and we're gonna be here with high interest rates, and people who have any savings are going to find those savings eroded.
Absolutely, as they already are, and it comes around to also the unknowable, unintended consequences of these policies and the aggressive, quote unquote, out of the box thinking, as Obama called it today, President Obama called it today, and that is, you've got so many trillions of dollars of new policies that are being impacted throughout the financial system. I think, when you look at what we've done with Citigroup, what we've done with Bank of America, and even Goldman Sachs, we have so much influence from a political spectrum now instead of a profit-seeking spectrum on the financial markets. And I think, in 3 to 5 years, the unknowable consequences of these decisions today, if 1% interest rates in the year 2000 helped cause the real estate bubble from 2000 to 2005, that blow off top, what is it going to mean in 5 years from now?
Cody, I've got a question for you. It looks like Peter Orszag has an agency fact sheet. He's trying to make the case that the expanded deficit is not because of any increased spending that this administration has put forth, but because they, guess what, missed forecast what would happen.
Well,
and that's supposed to be, and he's trying to spin, OMB, Office of Management and Budget. But how interesting is it that, and I know I hate it when sports reporters ask that question, how important is it that you just made that touchdown and won the game? But here he's got two bad cases to make, and he's trying to spin one better than the other by saying, well, it really isn't that our spending is so bad. It's just that our forecasting was so bad.
I'm very vocal about the fact that I feel totally betrayed by both parties, by the Republican and the Democrat parties. Mm-hmm. I can understand liberal ideology where we want to take care of poor people and maybe redistribute wealth from the rich to the poor, and I can understand conservative ideology where we're trying to protect the Constitution and fight for individual freedoms. I feel totally betrayed because both the Republican and the Democrat parties over the last especially 2 years have just nationalized property, corporation after corporation. They've redistributed wealth to shareholders on these in this unheard of magnitude. And when I step back and look at both, I just want to be careful that the Orzags and the current administration can pretend that they inherited it, and the past and the Republican, the party that's not in power right now, can pretend that they're trying to fight for low budgets and stuff. But I think we have to look at the fact that no matter whether it's these guys or the past administration, we have trillions of dollars of deficit. We have nationalized health care in many ways.
We got just a few seconds here. Isn't this the best argument against any kind of massive health care bill right now?
The only counter, though, is that here's the problem. Whether we allow the corporations, the insurance companies, to write the new bill or to continue gaming the status quo, the corporations are still the problem, and I don't know quite how to fight that. All
right. We'll save that for another day. Thank you very, very much for being with us today. Cody Willard, Anchor Fox Business Network.
Thank you
very much.
Me.
I appreciate it.